Hello and welcome to another brand new episode of Dingers and Stingers, the podcast that thought we'd learned our lesson about letting altered bats out of the lab. Anybody? I mean, maybe a little bit of a reach. Okay. I like that it hit. You guys don't know. I surprised them with those. I don't talk about what I'm going to say before the podcast starts. So that was the reaction I was hoping for. A little bit of a
Yeah,
throwback,
yeah.
but I'm glad the reference hit. Well, look.
Throwback to the best days of our lives.
That's right. We
Oh,
all love that time.
the
But
good old
look.
days.
All right. Well, I'm Dallas. That's Drew. And that's Matt. And this is our show. It is a MLB and NFL show. We are going to talk both of those things later on in our NFL segment. We'll talk about the owners' meetings, some highlights from the rule changes that have come down for the new season. We'll talk about what we think about those rules. A little later in our baseball segment, we're going to do a little game called Buy and Sell, opening weekend overreaction edition. Hopefully this is something we can check in on and repeat over the course of the season as well. But this will be our opening week edition of that segment. But first, we'll start with some warm-ups. Okay, just a couple of topics to get the tape machine spinning. Get our brains rolling, get our mouths nice and ready to talk and move. So I hinted at it in the intro, but we are going to talk about the story that everyone's talking about in MLB, and that is the onset of torpedo bats and what the heck is going on with those at the major league level. Look, with it being the Yankees, you could have called them the cuddly panda, clouds, and everyone would have been pissed. But the fact that they're called torpedo bats just makes it all the better. Let's get a little explanation as to what's going on here. What do I mean by torpedo bats? So Drew, fill us in. What do I mean by torpedo bats here? Give us like the 2-minute rundown.
Yeah, so the torpedo bat it's a baseball bat that is shaped a little differently than a typical bat. So the barrel for a typical baseball bat is at the end, and that's the fat part of the bat that the hitters are trying to get contact on. It'll go the furthest, hit it the hardest, all that. The Yankees introduced over the weekend a new shape where the barrel is moved down. It's called a torpedo bat because it kind of shaped like a torpedo. So the end of the bat is a little shorter than a little further down. So it looks different. It looks kind of wacky if you're not used to it. And the reason they implemented it is because they used, like these data bat analyst people. This guy who actually works for the Miami Marlins of all teams came up with this concept. But basically, some of their hitters they found weren't barreling up the ball very frequently, and so they found with this new bat design, it just works better for their swing. And of course, it being the Yankees, everyone went up in arms. The Yankees hit 1 million home runs in their opening series against the Brewers, so that added some fuel to the fire. But at the end of the day, I'm a Yankee hater. This is totally a legal move. Apparently, all the teams had access to these bats during spring training. They all tried them. There are players across the league using them now. The Yankees were just kind of the first team to really embrace it, it seems like. Um, so far, so good for the Yankees, and not all of them are using it. Aaron Judge famously is not. Clearly, he doesn't really have trouble with a standard baseball bat. But some other guys, Anthony Volpe, Jazz Chisholm, they were using them. They were hitting some more home runs. So definitely the story of the week in MLB. If you go on Twitter at all, it's, if you just type torpedo bat into a tweet, it's going to go viral. Um, but yeah, I'm curious, like that's my take on it is like it's legal, it's fair game. Why not? And, we'll talk about what it means for the future in a minute, but I'm curious what you guys thought when you first saw them.
Yeah, my gut reaction to seeing them was like, because the first takes that were coming out were the Yankees are cheaters. They're gonna ban the like all, and it's like they have to get them passed before the game. Like
Yeah.
every player gets two bats approved before every single game. So if they were cheating, if they were using illegal bats, they would have gotten caught essentially immediately. And the fact of the matter is these are just not illegal bats. They have, the like you talked about, they have that kind of bigger sweet spot, but at the same time, that means that it thins out at different parts of the bat. So there's going to be other disadvantages to it. Um, I don't know. I mean, my gut reaction is just like, I don't know, like everyone can use it, man. Like, there's always going to be things that you can like you have to adapt to in sports, and pitchers will learn to pitch around it. And not every batter can bring that sweet spot to every part of kind of the batter's box, right? Like you're just going to see pitchers learn and adjust and kind of figure it out. Um, all that being said, I mean, Nestor Cortez really had to get nuked to bring awareness to this. Um, like
Yeah.
truly, the 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 meme I saw on Twitter was that thing from SpongeBob when Patrick walks in and then it's just the like just like fire. Um, it made me laugh so hard because they were like Nestor Cortez opening up the MLB season. But I mean, someone had to take the shot, and he did. And I'm sure pitchers are watching what he did, where he was locating the ball, and I think we'll see kind of it stabilize and normalize a little bit. It's just right now pitchers are kind of learning a new thing, so it's exciting for now. I don't know how I'd feel if every game had 15, 20 runs scored in it. But as of right now, I think it's a fun little flash in the pan type of moment. So that's kind of my gut feeling.
Yeah, I think it's, that was, you hit on my point a little bit, which was that it's, it's just the latest thing in the push and pull between batters and pitchers, right?
Yeah.
We have pitchers having sort of in the last few years this really nice, advantage, in that matchup with all of the things that they're able to do with their pitches now. New pitchers that are coming out, that are just, their arsenals are deep or they're super shallow, but their pitches are impossible, like to see, to hit. And so this is just another response from batters. We saw the league step in and respond a few years ago with the juice balls. And then, now we have the batters themselves and the teams themselves stepping in to respond with these bats. And so, you hit on it a little bit in the beginning, but the last thing I want to talk about with these is what do you guys think over the course of the season? I want to set a little over under here, maybe about, 25% of major leaguers using these bats by the end of the year. What do you guys think, over or under?
Well, it depends. Like, I think it's going to be over 25% try it. Will it be
Hmm.
over 25% decide they like it and keep it? I doubt that. I think it'll be under in terms of people using this as their primary bat because it's clearly not some magic like new way that automatically makes hitters better. It's like I talked about Aaron Judge already, like Alex Bregman today on the Red Sox, like when the Red Sox were struggling, he tried it out during batting practice and I think maybe gave it a try for an at bat or two, but today he didn't use it. He hit a home run, he hit two doubles. So I think, you'll find players who, like Anthony Volpe is a good example of someone who's like, he's like pretty solid, but this is just like one little issue he had that this kind of fixes. It makes him a better player. So I think that baseball players are so routine based. I think if they struggle, they'll try it out. But I think most of them, certainly under 25% of them, will be using the torpedo bat this year.
Yeah, I think kind of similarly, my initial gut reaction to that was like for sure under 25% will be using it as their like game in, game out bat. Um, because like you said, it was introduced for a few players on the Yankees to solve very specific to the batter issues. And I don't think you can just say like torpedo bats universally across the board fix batters or make them better. It's like obviously if you can hit the sweet spot, you're going to get, a faster and harder exit velo and you're going to see some of these things, but that doesn't necessarily result or mean it's going to translate into actual hits um, and productive hits at that. What I will say is, it just feels funny to me that it's become such a thing. 'Cause it's like no way this is the first time someone just thought to themselves, why not make the barrel of the bat bigger? That like I feel like, I saw something, I was like, that feels like an idea I had when I was like 6. Like, yeah, I'll hit it better if I just make the barrel bigger. So clearly there's a
Yeah.
reason this wasn't implemented 20 years ago, 50 years ago, 80. Like, there's a reason that bats kind of have been the way that they've been, and a lot of players seem to find themselves within the certain range of size and everything. I think it'll make certain players better. I think we could actually see it make some players have bigger slumps because the bat's changing. Something that's worked for them for years and years, all of a sudden they're changing it to try and catch on to that piece of power, but maybe it's going to throw them off. I don't know. Should be interesting then.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I think I have a younger brother who plays golf, like it's like for
Mhm.
college level, and so I know a little bit about like golf club fitting, like what that kind of looks like. To have like golf clubs that are custom made for how you swing and how you're, things like that, how you play the game. And so it's, kind of a similar idea, right? That's what's happening here. And so it'll be interesting to see how many players, take the advantage of an opportunity to sort of, and how many teams would, go to people that could help their players with that, to, get them in and I assume that a lot more players would be testing them in the cage and, in batting practice more than would use them in a game.
Yep.
It's
But
also
yeah.
not like it's maybe the biggest change we've seen in recent years, but like they've changed the bats here and there where like now you can use a handle that's more like an axe handle.
Mhm.
So it's not a perfect like cylinder. It's more oblong, and you see certain players use that. I know Mookie Betts uses that kind of bat. So like there's always been these like little incremental changes here and there. They haven't always resulted in like a 15 home run onslaught in a 2 game span or whatever it was. Um, but also you're not always playing the soft tossing Brewers at Yankee Stadium. So
Yeah. 100%. So that's Torpedo Bat Talk. We'll, I'm sure, revisit that topic a couple times in case if something kicks up again. But the next and last topic for the warm-ups today I wanted to talk about is, look, let's do a little Dodger talk. We did a little Yankee talk. We'll do a little Dodger talk. And so we're going to talk about Roki Sasaki briefly. His first couple of starts have been sort of nothing to really well, he would hope there'd be nothing to remark about, but unfortunately, they've been something to remark about in it's kind of a negative way. I believe in his most recent one, he did not make it out of the second inning. Is that correct?
I believe so, yeah.
yeah,
Because he had, what, again, like 4 or 5 walks.
Yeah. So I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts here. What do you think is the biggest thing behind the sort of a auspicious beginning for Roki Sasaki in the majors?
I mean, I don't know too much if I can go into the analytics of what's going wrong for Roki Sasaki. It just seems like maybe the game was bigger than he thought it would be. And obviously, he was a superstar in Japan. There's a reason he was so highly sought after, and his arsenal's there, and you can see the stuff. Like when you watched him pitch, you can still see the reason he was so sought after. He still has the amazing strikeout stuff. But finding the location, I mean, I don't know if the batters here have just been more patient. I don't know if it's the teams that he faced. I really don't know what, the reasoning for his struggles have been. I just know that there's been command issues and he's walking a lot of batters. Um, but yeah, I this whole Roki Sasaki thing is just so interesting to me, and like his whole demeanor about it and just all the stuff that ties into the off season. There's a lot to say. I feel like I want to let Drew go first though, because I don't know if we're gonna end up getting into this or not. But yeah, I as far as the baseball portion of it goes, I don't know. It feels weird that he comes in being such a superstar, being such a dominant pitcher, even at like the World Baseball Classic was awesome, and then he comes here and he just can't seem to find the strike zone consistently. So I don't know.
yeah. I will say like first of all, I'm not worried about him long term
No,
for his success. Like he's 23 years old. He's coming
the
over
tools
to
are all there.
yeah, he throws, he has the elite fastball, he has that nasty split. Um, I'm sure he could even learn a pitch or two, Um, I'm not worried about him, but yeah, it hasn't been pretty so far. He's walked a lot of guys. Looking at his Japanese numbers, I mean, right now he's walking 17.3 per 9 innings. That's not sustainable. That's not going to be his walk rate at the end of the year. It just, like, there's no way.
Yeah.
But I think, the game, like Matt said, the game was like a little bigger than he expected. I don't know if it's bigger than he expected, but it's like maybe the moment is bigger than he expected. Like he just he's a young guy, first time playing in this big stage. He only went 3 innings in the game in Japan,
Hmm.
um, walking 5 guys. Uh, 1.2 innings here in LA, 4 walks. So like that's just the command is just not there right now. And um, if you're a Dodgers fan, you're not worried about it because A, he's going to be fine, I think. B, you have so many other pitchers you can rely on. And C, you haven't lost a game yet, so it hasn't it
Yeah.
hasn't really mattered.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's what Matt was kind of alluding to. There's the video of him in the dugout after he got pulled in his recent start, and his eyes are kind of welling up with tears, and he's not like sobbing or anything, but like it's clear that he's emotional about what happened, and of course he wanted to do better. It was his United States debut
Mhm.
in front of the Dodger faithful and all that. I'm sure he's disappointed, and that's fine. You would hope he's disappointed. You would hope he's not satisfied with that performance. At the same time, I don't love the look of sitting in the dugout with tears in your eyes. I like, if you're kind of overcome with the emotion, which no shame in that. It's stressful. You're making, big league starts. It's not an easy thing to do. There's a clubhouse away from cameras you can go do that in. I just think after the off season he had where it was like everyone thought he was going to the Dodgers and it was a foregone conclusion. And then they kind of tried to be like, well, no, he could go anywhere and maybe he doesn't want a big market and maybe he wants some more privacy. And then, of course, he just ends up going to the Dodgers anyways. Um, we're just in a stage right now where we want to we want to complain about the Dodgers, and this is a clear thing that we can look at and be like, this is not great. Um, so it's just not a good look. That's my take on it. And I think he'll be fine. I think he'll be a successful major league pitcher. I think it was kind of maybe silly to think he would come in and dominate right away because that just doesn't happen. I mean, it took Ohtani a few years before he became Ohtani.
Sure did.
Um, Yamamoto was good, not amazing last year, not like outstanding.
His
Uh,
his first few starts, I remember people on Twitter were roasting him, calling him Yama meatballs. Like
yeah.
you become a big leaguer, and realistically, it's a jump in competition. Of course, it's going to be challenging.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's
100%.
that's what I have to say about that situation.
Yeah,
I
I think
just
yeah, it's definitely worth noting that his first two
Mhm.
starts were in Japan, which is a big stage, it's the international game, and then also his start here was the night they got the rings pregame. So it's like all these, he's seeing all this stuff happen. It's pressure. It's the realization that you're playing for this team with this international brand. It's the number one thing in the MLB. This is who they're pushing out to the world to showcase their product, and then you also have to deal with watching all your teammates get World Series rings and the expectation that's there. So definitely think that's worth mentioning too.
yeah, I mean, I as soon as you said it, it's what I was kind of thinking the whole time, but it's crazy to me that that was the off-season story was like you said, it was assumed he would go Dodgers. And then they made a whole point in that press conference with his agent to be like, well, we actually really like the idea of going to a smaller market team. Like we're not sure. And this agent literally said like, we're not sure how his like emotions and like some of his emotional stuff is going to translate to a larger market. And then he decided to just ride Otani's coattails and follow, this trend to the Dodgers and you're getting rocked and you can't handle the moment. Like it does kind of just piss me off. Like I want to root for Sasaki. I hope that he is good and I do believe he'll be good long term. Um, I really have nothing against any of these Japanese players. Like they come over and they're good baseball players. I respect it. At the same time, I'm like, it just pisses me off that it was you made it the story that you didn't think you would be able to handle the big market. You choose the big market and instantly can't handle the big market. Like you
And what's
yourself were
funny,
like,
yeah.
they knew that he couldn't himself and his agent and still decided. And this isn't me as a Padres fan being like, should have been in San Diego. San Diego Stadium is not a small market. Like San Diego might be a small market, but you're
Well,
playing
San
in San
Diego
Diego.
proper, it's like the sixth biggest population center in the United States. So it's like,
Yeah, and like every game is basically sold out. Like we're one of the loudest crowd. Like I'm not saying like, oh, he would have done better in Petco. It's if he really meant what he said, like there's other teams that you could have been a legend for, and you could have come in and having a tough start to your career wouldn't have been this big deal. But now you're feeling the effects of choosing the large market. You're getting memed on social media. You're getting just blasted on national Like it's just it pisses me off. Like I don't know. Of course we love being Dodger haters, but I don't know.
but I also think what's funny to me is that he chose the Dodgers, and they are obviously a large market. LA's the second biggest market in America, and yet it's still like maybe like if you're gonna choose a big market, it's like the one place that's not gonna get down on him. Dodger fans, like they do not turn on their players to a point where it's almost annoying. It's like, dude, like admit this guy's bad, you know? Um, and you know, there's arguments for being that way and arguments against. But like if he was in Boston, if he was in New York, if he was in Philadelphia, like, oh my God, the fans would have turned the home fans, the fans of the team that he is on. If he was on the Phillies, if he was on the Yankees, if he was on the Red Sox, it would be over for him already. People would have already passed their judgment. Um, so like in a sense, he chose the right place because it's this massive market, but in a way, there's way less pressure because there's so many other good players on that team, and like they still won that game. They haven't lost a game yet, and like I said, the Dodger media and the Dodger fan base is just not going to turn on him that way. In fact, I've seen them, jumping all over themselves trying to defend it. Which like it's not like I'm not saying it's like some egregious behavior to show some emotion, but like, after the off season that we had, we didn't love seeing it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. Well, I feel warmed up. Do you guys feel warmed up? Ready to
Yeah,
go?
let's get it. Let's
All
get it.
right. Let's carry this energy into the one of my hopefully what will become something that we can repeat and be constant on the show if it goes well. This is a segment we like to call buy and sell, right? So this is buy and
Get it.
sell opening week overreaction edition. I'll explain how we're going to do this and what it is. So what's going to happen is I'm going to read off the names of some teams, and then these guys here will, tell us whether they're buying stock in those teams or selling their stock in those teams based on opening week and how that's gone. Now, the only other thing that I want to mention is that these are going to be teams who either started well, maybe unexpectedly, and teams who started not well, perhaps unexpectedly as well. There are going to be teams that we don't mention here that started well. The Dodgers will not be mentioned here. The Padres will not be mentioned here. The Yankees, even though they kind of evened out over the last couple of days, they started well. They won't be mentioned here. These are teams that we expected to be good, and so we don't want to overtalk about them. And then there will be teams, that perhaps have started cold that won't be mentioned here because for the same reason, but the opposite. We kind of expected them to not be very good, so we won't mention them here as well. But we'll get into it here. Drew's going to take the hot teams. Matt's going to take the cold teams, and we're going to go back and forth. So let's get started with our first hot team, and that is the Blue Jays of Toronto, who have started 5-2. So, Drew, buying or selling on the Blue Jays?
I'm gonna go ahead and buy that the Blue Jays are gonna be a competitive team this year. Right now they're in first place in the American League East. I don't think that's gonna be the case when the season ends. But they played the Orioles, they played the Nationals. So Orioles we expect to be good. They went 2-2 against them, and then they played the Nationals and swept them. So this is a team, the Blue Jays, where they had kind of some misses in the offseason. They try really hard to get these guys. Doesn't work out. We kind of clown them. They don't extend Guerrero. The fact of the matter is they still have Vlad Guerrero. They still have a lot of good players. They still signed some really solid players. Um, and it's a veteran roster, so like I don't love the future the Blue Jays have beyond 2025, but I think what many people have said is that they absolutely could hang around in 2025. 2024 was just kind of a disaster that they want to put behind them. So yeah, I buy that the Blue Jays will be a solid team this year. Still, I don't know. I don't have them in my playoff picture. That remains the same, but I'm not at all shocked by a hot start for the Blue Jays, especially given the competition they faced.
Yeah, and that's going to be another part of it, right? Is the competition. We'll factor all that into these starts as well, and that also factored into who got into the list as well a little bit. All right, so we're buying on the Blue Jays. All right, so we'll go to our first cold team here. Over to Matt, and let's start with, we mentioned them earlier. They were the sort of the guinea pigs of the torpedo bat situation.
Mhm.
I said that like I was from the side, torpedo bats. I said it like I was, I don't know why I said it like that. But we're going to talk about the Brewers. So Brewers started 3-4. Matt, buy or sell on the Brewers?
Um, I want to say I'm going to sell on the idea that they're going to continue to be bad.
Yeah.
I do not believe that this team is going to go through the season and get lit up and just nuked in every series. Obviously, their run differential, a lot of their metrics right now look really bad. But that's what happens when you give up like 30 runs in the first two games. Like there's going to be positive regression for the Brewers. I think, a lot of their players came out really cold. Obviously pitching came out real cold. But sometimes that happens. I mean, there's a couple teams on this list that I think we're going to talk about where you could say a lot of the same stuff for them as well. Um, but I'm selling. I do not think that the Brewers will remain a bad team. I still think that they will be above 500 by the end of the season and will be right there in the picture for potential playoff spot. Um, they just, there's some adjustments that need to be made, and I think they'll make them.
And just to further your point, I mean, Nestor Cortez was the pitcher who was started that onslaught game, three straight home runs on the first three pitches of the game. That's
Yeah.
insane, like
Mhm.
terrible. Today he pitched against the Reds, who have a pretty decent lineup, not a Yankee lineup, but a pretty decent lineup. 6 innings pitched, only one hit given up. So,
Well, and let me say, I mean, Ellie De La Cruz's first game with the torpedo bat, he went 2 home runs, 7 RBIs, like he blew up. And yet the
yeah.
same guy who got blew up by a torpedo bat pitching against the guy who arguably had the biggest spike in production with the torpedo bat, no correlation. So I do think there's going to be some kind of like find the middle ground in all this.
Yeah, 100%. And so just before we make the final verdict on that, when we're talking about cold teams, we want to buy this one because we think they're going to be successful. So we're buying stock in them so that they're going to be better than they have started. So if you
Okay,
want to sell,
you don't want me doing the double
yeah,
negatives.
if you want to sell your stock in the team, you think they're going to be bad. Just period. Whether they start hot or cold, you want to sell your stock because you think they're going to be bad. And if you think they're going to be good, whether they start hot or cold, you're going to buy their stock. So you're getting in on the ground
Great,
floor of the
great,
Brewers.
great.
You're buying while it's,
I'm buying
you're buying
Brewers.
you're buying while it's cheap, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
And
sir.
so to explode your investment. So we're buying that the Brewers, buying stock in the Brewers, we think they're going to be good. All right, let's jump to the next team that started hot. One of the more unexpected hot starts here. The Marlins of Miami are 4-3, which, is one game, over 500, but, that's about 3 games above 500 that I may have expected them to be. So Drew, what do you think? You're buying stock in the Marlins, or are you just going to sell off?
I'm selling off. If I had any stock, which I didn't anyway, but if I had any, I'd be selling it. They won 3 out of 4 against the Pirates, and all three were walk-offs, which is great. Super exciting if you're a fan of that team, but also not sustainable. And that's a Pirates team that we talked about in our division previews, like did not do enough, decidedly did not do enough. Um, so I'm not taking too much from that. And then when they played the Mets, they lost 2 out of 3. And so, and they did win the game that Sandy Alcantara started. I think he'll be solid. I think he'll definitely not be on the Marlins by the end of the season. That's my not so bold prediction. Um, so yeah, I'm selling. If there's anyone good on this team, they're probably going to get traded unless they're like the super young guys, which, even then, it's not going to be enough. I still expect the Marlins at the end of the year to be one of the bottom 5 teams, probably one of the bottom 3 teams.
Yeah, I think I have to agree.
Yeah.
We as a pod sell your Marlins stock while the price is high and you can get out and make a little money. All right, so the next cold team is perhaps the coldest team that could ever be a cold team. A little bit of well, let's say who they are. It's the Braves. Okay, the
Yeah.
Braves of Atlanta. They have not won a game as of today. That is Thursday, the 3rd of April that we're recording this. They have not won a game yet. Hopefully, by the time this comes out, they'll win a game. Got to. But a little bit of Angels legend on Angels legend crime at Dodger Stadium on Wednesday night, the second when Shohei Ohtani walked it off of Raisel Iglesias. But that made him 0-7. So Matt, what do we think? Are we going to just sell off our Brave stock, get out, or are we buying so that they're going to be successful later on?
Yeah, dude, the Braves are crazy to me because like I had them picked to win their division. I
So
had
did
them
I.
being really competitive in the playoffs and all this stuff. And I will say, despite the 0-7 start, I would still be in on the Braves. I would still be buying the Braves. Now, I think you have to set your expectations. No team in MLB history has ever started 0-7 and then made the playoffs. I don't know if we're looking at a team that's going to be, running the table that hard that they're able to find their way in, but I do not believe that we are going to see them at the bottom of the MLB rankings at the end of the season. Like, if we're talking about just improvement on what's happened, assuredly so. Like, I can't begin to fathom. I would have told you before the season this is one of the deepest lineups. Um, Solid rotation. They're only going to get better with Acuna and Strider coming back. And yet, we have really good players on their team. And I think they're batting as a team like 137 right now. And that's talking about Austin Riley, Matt Olson, Michael Harris, Ozzy Albies, like good players and they're batting 137. Marcelo Zuna, love him or hate him, the dude hit the ball last year. And it's just a remarkable and yeah, they finally got some juice and then to get walked off by Shohei on Shohei's bobblehead night, the script was just scripting. It's a tough see, but if we're talking about the long term, they can't be this bad. They just aren't. The talent wouldn't let them. So I'm buying Braves to be better than what they are right now.
Mm-hmm.
I wanna just chime in. I agree with you, but I think I'm still gonna sell my Brave stock because this start is so bad. So granted, the teams they have played so far have not lost combined, which is
Actually,
kind of kind of like it's a chicken versus the egg situation. But at the same time, Jurickson Profar, which I'm going to talk about him later, spoiler alert,
right, we'll
he
get to
got
that.
popped for PEDs, 80-game suspension. When he comes back,
Fake news.
he will not be able to play in the playoffs.
Unproven.
Um, so regardless of if it's a reflection on his character or not, it is going to hurt the Braves that he's unavailable. And so while I expect them to get better with not playing the 2 best teams in baseball uh, for a while, and then also getting Acuna and Strider back, I think they can still, if they get hot enough, they'll make some noise in that division. But I think I know it's a week into the season, but they might have dug themselves too big of a hole. Because, like Matt said, a team has never started 0-7 and made the playoffs. And that's 7 games in the National League East that also has the Mets, it also has the Phillies. Um, it's a national league that is stacked in the wild card department. So like I also picked them to win the division. I think I have no choice but to sell that take.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Much to
dude. I
consider.
mean, literally, after we swept the Braves, I remember seeing a thing, and it was like the Padres already now hold the tiebreaker over the Braves the entire season. The Braves
Oh,
don't play enough games against us to take that. So that's one wild card spot away from them already. They're fighting for the last two.
If you're tied, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But it's just like, it's crazy. They're playing Miami next. So if there's a team they got to get right on, it's got to be Miami. If they get swept by Miami, we're calling worse than last year's White Sox.
yeah. Well, yeah, much to consider about the Atlanta Braves, but let's go to our next hot team. The St. Louis Cardinals started 4-2. Drew, buying or selling our stock in the Cardinals?
I'm also gonna sell, although not quite as confidently as I was in the Marlins. But um, yeah, the Cardinals just. Oh, and there goes uh, a Toby little freak out. So anyway, she's a big Cardinals fan. She gets mad when I talk
Yeah,
badly about
she's
them. But
so
yeah, they
pissed.
are really they're just they played the Twins, they played the Angels, two teams that like, Matt and I both picked the Twins to win the division. Well, you know, I don't know. That was such a hard division to predict. But yeah, the Cardinals are just I just don't think they have it. They didn't do anything this offseason. Their pitching I don't trust at all. Their offense is going to be streaky at best. I just don't predict this team to be super competitive year in and year out. Um, that said, they're in a weak division, so maybe they can make some noise. But at the end of the day, I'm selling. I don't think the Cardinals last as a really good team.
Yeah, competition level must be considered here, and I think a good idea maybe to sell some Cardinal stock here while the price is high. Okay, our next cold team. We just talked about them or mentioned them. The Twins. They started 2-5. They were a division winner on this podcast, so we put them in here. Matt, what do we think? Do we, buy up some stock while the price is low, or are we selling off?
Okay. Before I make the final determination on whether I'm buying or selling,
Yeah.
I haven't watched in person the Twins games. The one thing that we said held everything together for them was going to be their health. I know in spring training, what's his name did get hurt, Royce Lewis.
Yeah.
He's on the IL, correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Has Buxton and Correa stayed healthy?
Yeah, they're playing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they're out of here. My big thing with them was I thought if two out of the three could stay healthy, they've got a chance here. I personally am way, way lower on the Cardinals than even you sounded. Maybe we're on the same page. I don't know. But if they're not able to win series against like teams like the Cardinals, I think that bodes really poorly for their whole season outlook. And granted, it's a long season, but I, don't- I in the Central divisions, all these teams are going to finish within 10 games or so of each other, it seems like. And when it's going to be so close, like you have to be able to win on the margins. And if they're not doing that, then there's nothing hopeful there. I'm selling. I don't. I did predict them to win, and very quickly they have scared me off entirely. Um, I thought their pitching staff was going to be pretty solid, and so far they've also been absolutely nuked and nuked by teams that shouldn't be nuking anybody. So I don't know. I've been seeing Nolan Arenado, batting highlights against them, and that shouldn't be happening. I love him, but yeah, that's bad. That's bad news.
I'm actually gonna buy Cardinals. I mean, sorry, Twins, because if you look at the American League Central standings right now,
They're
every
all 2
single
and 4,
team
right?
every single team has two wins. Now the Twins have one more loss because they played today, but all of them don't look very good. And yeah, I think the Twins are better than the Cardinals. Obviously, they got swept by them. That's not a good look. But I know that's the like kind of the whole exercise here, but the first week of the season, the first series of the year, like it's a hard thing to judge because weird stuff happens. People show up more ready than others, what have you. It was, in St. Louis. Um, Correa hasn't started hot, but I just think this division is so weak that I I still buy that the Twins could be a playoff team.
They
Yeah.
might be a playoff team in the same way that 7-9 Seahawks team was a playoff team,
Sure.
right? I
You
guess
mean
if
you
you're
mean you
buying,
mean win a game against the defending champions? Is that what you mean?
yeah, and
What's
they
the
could.
Twins equivalent of a beast quake?
Yeah.
One singular home run and three healthy players.
Okay, so we'll see on the Twins. We'll check back in. But let's go to our last hot team here, the white hot San Francisco Giants. Drew, are we buying or selling on the Giants here?
I'm gonna buy the Giants. I like
Mm.
the Giants. I said in our division preview, like if they were in any other division,
Mhm.
I would like them a lot better. And we already see that they've only lost one game. They're in third place. So like I don't buy them to win this division. It's not going to be a 2021 situation, but the Giants look solid enough. They beat the Reds 2 out of 3, and then they swept the Astros in Houston. Uh, you know, Elliot Ramos looks great after his All-Star year last year. You've got the pitching has looked good so far. Um, yeah, I'm gonna buy these Giants. I kind of like their roster, and we'll see if they can sneak into one of those second or third wild card spots. Unfortunately, it's an uphill climb in that division, and even the Diamondbacks are behind them, but the Diamondbacks look pretty good so far. But we could have a situation where all three wild card teams are from the same division in the National League, and it wouldn't be stunning. So I buy the Giants. It's going to be a tough road, but I like what I've seen so far.
Yeah, I agree. I truly believe this is a classic. Like, they would be absolutely the top team in a number of other divisions. And it's just the fact that they are 5-1 in third place, barely beating out the 4-2 fourth place Diamondback. Like, yeah, it's gonna be a boat race at the end of the season to see who gets out of this division.
Yeah, maybe it's just because I was like in the very beginning of my baseball obsession years during the even year run for the Giants, but it always feels
Yep.
good to me when the Giants are good, you know? Feels nice. So
Huh.
I like the Giants are good. It feels like home. All right. So last cold team and last team that we'll talk about for this buy and sell segment here. The Astros. They started 3-4. They started a little worse than that, but they won today, I believe, or maybe
Yes.
yesterday. And so 3-4, still slower for a division champion. Defending, and also maybe that you guys have the Rangers, both of you have the Rangers. So for a defending division champion, certainly a slow start. So Matt, are we buying or selling the Astros?
Um, I'm selling the Astros. I think, I don't believe I had them in my playoffs at all. I don't believe I had them making the AL playoffs. And to me, 3-4, if they just continue that trend over the course of the season and, just short of 500, that wouldn't shock me. I think when we talked about it, they made decent offseason moves that I think will eventually help offset the losses. But at the end of the day, there's such a void right now that they're gonna have to kind of, pay the toll for what happened this offseason. And Altuve in left field truly doesn't look great. Um, and I'm not saying that this is all because of a left fielder, but it's also, you gotta start figuring it out if you're gonna improve. And I think um, I'm selling on the Astros. I think there's just other teams even in that division that to me seem a little bit better right now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna buy. I'm gonna buy. I'm gonna keep them exactly where I predicted them, which is a wild card team, second place in that division, just because they won their first series. They got swept by the Giants, like I already talked about. I think the Giants are going to be solid. and then they won today. So and the team, they're tied with the Mariners, and then the Angels are in front of them. I fully expect they will be better than the Angels. And then yeah, like maybe they won't catch the Rangers, but the Astros started last year so bad and still ended up winning the division. Uh, they are just, besides maybe the Dodgers, the team that has earned the biggest benefit of the doubt from me in terms of they're just going to be in the playoffs. I just expect it. So I'm still buying on the Astros.
All right. So a little bit of a split decision on the Astros. So that'll do it for buy and sell. For the opening week overreaction edition, we'll do another of the buy and sell segments later on in the season when check in a little later on. Hopefully it'll be with some different teams in the mix, so we can talk a little bit more about other teams there. But adjust your baseball portfolios accordingly because you heard it here first. And so that's buy and sell. We are going to move now to a little bit of fan corner because, we're all very big fans of our teams and we have a show and we want to talk about them a little bit. We don't want to, make the show only about our teams, but we'll take a little bit of space in each episode to give you a little, maybe one or two of the most interesting things that are going on with our teams over the last week. Since my team is maybe the least interesting, I'll start. Because there's been more interesting things happening with both of your teams. So I'd say, the first most interesting thing with the Angels this week, during opening week has kind of just been, I would say a young guy that I didn't mention in my X Factors, because I didn't really have him on the radar too much, but Kyron Paris has had a good start to the year. He has been a late game hero. On a few different occasions against the White Sox and the Cardinals. It's a big talk in the Angels sort of fan places online as to why he's not in the starting lineup every day. That has been what all the Angels fans that I've seen have been talking about, is that Ron Washington chooses to start Jo Adell and Tim Anderson over Kyron Paris, who can play center field and shortstop. And so Kyron Paris sort of coming in as a pinch hitter in, I believe it was the second Cardinals game where he, had a good game when he came in as a pinch hitter, and things like that. So, and only started in the White Sox series to spell Jo Adell when he had a little bit of a leg issue come up in the first game of the year. So, that has been the topic of conversation. I think the most, common reason why that is because it's the first week of the year, and Ron Washington strikes me as the kind of manager that sticks with his veterans, and allows them time to communicate to him who they are via their performance, right? So he's not going to go off of 2 games, 3 games, and bench somebody he started on opening day like Tim Anderson or Jo Adell, for someone who is sort of unproven but hot. I think that is the biggest reason why, for Angel fans who may be concerned that Ron Washington is losing his mind, I think that's just the kind of manager he is. He sticks with his vets until they prove to him that they simply cannot hold. And then he talks about, bringing in someone who hasn't yet totally been proven at the MLB level. And so that's my take on the most interesting thing with the Angels, that Kyron Paris start. And then look, we didn't mention them in our hot start. They have the same record as the Cardinals. We didn't mention them because of the level of what we expect their competition to be. Obviously, I think losing to the Angels says more about you than it does about the Angels until proven otherwise, right? So losing to the Angels is worse for you than it is good for the Angels at any point until we get to a certain point and maybe they're rolling. But right now, not really, too excited just yet about this start. But so that's the Angels. Let's stick on the West Coast and go with the Padres next. So Matt, do a little fan corner for us.
Yeah, dude, life in San Diego is fantastic these days. We had all this offseason drama. We thought all we're going to be doing is cutting our spending. We're not going to be investing, and all that happens is a year after getting the call up to the big leagues, we signed Jackson Merrill to a 9-year extension. He is with us for the next decade, and genuinely, like, one of the best players. I'm very excited. Like, he is exactly what you want on your team. So we've got Jackson Merrill locked up. We are off to the best start in franchise history. Last time we did this, I think 6-0. We lost in the World Series. Um, and so I'm feeling good about my World Series prediction on the Padres now. I felt little silly making it, but yeah, it's come full circle. We're feeling good, man. Like vibes are just high and for the Padres right now. It's crazy. I mean, we signed all these ancient, veteran players who we thought were just going to be terrible. I was looking at Yuli Gurriel and Martin Maldonado. Those dudes have been raking for us in the early season. Maldonado in his first game came out and I think had went like 3 for 4 or something stupid. Like just like weird out of pocket plays. We're running like no other team. I think we have 3 of the top 5 stolen base players in the league, and 2 of them I've never seen sprint before. So it's an interesting thing, and I don't know. I love to see it. We talked about, in our predictions, like this team will go as far as our veterans take us because we knew that the young guys were going to be the young guys. Tatis, when healthy, special player. Jackson Merrill, obviously a rising star. But we had disappointing seasons from Xander and Manny, and now all of a sudden they seem to be kind of elevating their play. They're the 2 players who are also in the top 5 for stolen bases. I don't think that lasts, but it's good to see them running. It's just I don't know, vibes are high right now. I'm very excited. Sad that the streak will probably come to an end, but I mean, 162-0 is on the table. So until
Still in
that's
play.
over, until that's over, I stand by 162-0, baby.
Still in
And
play.
playing good teams too. They swept the
Yeah,
Braves and they swept the Guardians
Braves a very good team.
and so I mean, yeah, like they're 2 teams that you look at and you're like, okay, that's not like, they're not just like rollover teams and
Yeah,
getting it done.
yeah.
So, yeah, great
Okay.
start for the Padres.
100%. All right. Let's finish fan corner with the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah, I mean, if you talked to me a day and a half ago, I'd be feeling much worse about the Red Sox, but they won their last 2 games, so they got a series win against the Orioles after a 4-game losing streak. So 3-4 overall, but I am feeling good because they the reason they were losing games was they weren't hitting. They weren't hitting in the clutch, and a lot of the players weren't hitting at all. And I just don't worry about that long term for the Red Sox. It's been their calling card as long as I've been a fan. They've been one of the best hitting teams in baseball. Um, the guys who have really struggled, Rafael Devers, Tristan Casas, Jaron Duran, these are all guys I expect to right the ship and have good years. So what I'm really encouraged by is the defense and the bullpen have both been great, which have been 2 real struggles for the Red Sox in these years of mediocrity that we've been going through. So we expected bigger things from the Red Sox this year. 3-4 might not be too exciting, but I think that there are positive signs here. Devers finally got a couple hits. Christian Campbell looks amazing so far.
Mhm.
He got a nice little extension, real team friendly extension, which uh, he played 4 major league games when he signed that. So like I don't blame the guy. It's generational money still. But and then Garrett Crochet got a nice extension as well. So vibes are good. Home openers tomorrow. Day game against the Cardinals. So we're excited. We're excited.
We're buying
Okay.
stock on the Sox.
Hmm.
Yeah. And
Sir,
so, we mentioned it, but check a couple days ago, they were in that cold start column, and we moved them after they won their last couple games. But yes, yeah, good, second half of the week for the Red Sox for sure. And having watched a lot of it, I think you'll have some fun with that Cardinals bullpen this weekend. We'll see. Okay, so last thing we'll do in our MLB segment here is we'll lock something in. So, the people who listen to this are familiar now. I don't put my name out there. I don't lock things in. I don't make predictions. You guys are the prediction makers here. But what I want to do is just something a little fun. Take a look at the next week of the MLB schedule, and I'd like you guys to both give me one prediction for the AL and one prediction for the NL based on the next week. So it could be a player you think is going to have a good game, or a series winner you can pick. Whatever you guys want. Give me something you think that's going to happen over the course of the next week.
I'll start. I'll start with my National League prediction. Uh, I'm gonna go with, and this is based on nothing but vibes in my head. Um, Later in the week, the Dodgers are going to Washington D.C. to play the Nationals, and I predict that the Dodgers will lose their first game again. Well, they're going to lose a game at some point in this week. But here's where this prediction comes into play. Dylan Cruz, who a lot of people have picked to be National League Rookie of the Year, he does not have a hit yet. He has been bad. I think he's going to have a breakout game against the Los Angeles Dodgers. I think he needs to, rise to the occasion. You're playing the most hyped team we've seen in years. And he's gonna, maybe he'll get a hit or two this weekend, but he's really gonna have like a big game against the Dodgers this week, and we're gonna soon forget about his slow start.
Okay, Matt, NL pick.
Yeah, my NL pick, similar but different. I actually think that Padres will still be undefeated at time of filming next week. Not even joking.
Familiar faces, worn out places, worn out faces, bright and early for their daily races, going nowhere, going nowhere.
Not even joking. I think that we can beat the Cubs. After that, all we've got is the A's and the Rockies. If we get past the Cubs, I can see the Padres taking this and rolling with it. There's also the chance that that totally bites me in the ass and we end up getting swept by the fucking Rockies because, of course.
Oh man,
But
that's
by,
good.
by filming next week, the Padres are still going to be undefeated and 162 is still on the table.
All right, that's great. Well, I'll be. That gives us all something to look forward to for the week. Let's check in with the Padres, all of their games. Okay, so let's go with the AL. Drew, back to you.
Yeah, just to chime in really quick, it's in San Diego, the Rockies series, which Rockies starting pitching has been weirdly amazing so far. But they haven't played in Colorado yet, so
Drew.
it might come crumbling down. But anyways, my American League prediction for this week is, I'm trying to look at the schedule. It's all very, there's no like clean way of looking at it where you see all the teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my prediction is the American League Central. There will be more wins like overall, but they're still like all gonna look bad in a week. They're gonna be all like real close to each other, and we're gonna be like one of these teams is gonna make the playoffs because they have to. Which team is it gonna be? We'll have no idea. We know it won't be the White Sox, but yeah, I don't think any single one of these teams is particularly good. The Twins and Royals play each other next week. White Sox and Tigers play each other this weekend, so like by default there will be some wins added, but yeah, I don't expect this division to get better anytime soon.
Yeah. Uh, my AL prediction. This may be slightly premature. We'll see. We'll see next week. I think that the Yankees' offensive numbers are going to come crashing down pretty dramatically. Um, they already have started falling and kind of stabilizing, but we got to get these numbers out of Yankee Stadium. Like, I haven't seen exactly the schedule. I'm hoping that they play outside of Yankee Stadium, but I was reading something saying like Austin Wells, Anthony Volpe, like some of these guys who had some of their like flashy home runs early, they're
Their little
only
Yankee
home
Stadium
runs
home
in
runs.
Yankee Stadium.
Yeah,
Like
they're
it is
unicorns.
exclusively Yankee Stadium home runs. These numbers are going to come down. Those are going to be outs in literally every other park. And, as soon as they start playing in some of these other places, I think we're going to see the Yankees kind of come back to earth a little bit in terms of their offensive putout. Um, and hopefully that happens this week because we hate the Yankees.
Yeah, they go to Pittsburgh and then Detroit, so they will be leaving town.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
I don't know if they face Skeens. That
Don't
probably
matter.
matches up for. No,
I still think that
I love Paul Skeens.
that's fair.
It's good.
He's good.
Um, it's good. Okay, so those are our pod predictions for the next week in the AL and NL. We'll check in next week and see how you guys did. All right, so that'll do it for MLB Talk this week. A great opening week and a great way to a great chat about some great baseball opening week. So let's move over to the NFL for a little bit. There was a bit of news from the NFL this week. That was because the owners' meetings took place. And typically speaking, the owners' meetings are where, the first pre-draft headlines come out. Coaches talk, owners might talk as well. And so also, thing that happens there is that rule changes get voted on. You have all the owners in one place. You vote on some rule changes. And so we're going to go through some of the biggest rule changes that got voted on, some things that did change and some things that maybe didn't change. And we'll talk about what we think. First thing on the list here, we talked about this in a previous episode. They talked about having a vote on the tush push ban, right? So what the part of the owners' meetings is that there is an agreement on what will be voted on and what will be tabled for a future meeting. This owners' meeting, the tush push ban was tabled for a future meeting. So it was not officially voted on. So it has not officially failed yet, but it has not been, officially voted on. So the effort to ban it did not happen this owners' meetings. Like I said, no formal vote took place, but an informal vote is reported to have been 16-16. So not only did a vote not take place, but if one had, I don't know where we would have gotten about that right now. So how you guys feeling about no vote on the tush push? What do you think is going to happen by the next time this vote takes place?
I'm fine with no tush push vote yet. I think weirdly, because it has been around for a minute now, I don't know if the right conversations around the tush push have happened yet, because it still feels like a lot of teams are just upset that they can't do it as good. And so they're like, well, we're at a disadvantage because we're not as good at it, so take it away. That's not the reason the tush push should be changed. There are things about the tush push that absolutely should be. We've talked about this in the past, and I won't go down a full rabbit hole, but addressing the issues of lining up offsides on the offense, the fact that defensive players and on defense have actually been banned from doing the same motion in the name of player safety. Defensive players cannot push the player in front of them into an offensive player. That is not allowed. We saw that with like field goal blocks and all that type of stuff. So there are valid and like actual reasonable things that I think could be changed about the tush push. The problem is I don't think at this point those were the points being brought up. From all the news I've seen, it really has been just a lot of people complaining, essentially. So I'm fine with it getting tabled because I would like to see that conversation kind of continue to happen so that way we can eventually see change with it. I don't think banning the tush push as a play is the solution, but definitely addressing some of the surrounding rules and regulations around it could be an improvement. So one more year of tush push. We'll see.
Yeah, I think we don't know who voted yes and who voted no, right? It's just we
Right.
know it was split.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to know the 16 that voted to ban it because uh, that's 16 teams who are admitting that they have given up on trying to stop a play. They
Hmm. Yeah.
have admitted defeat. And that to me is shameful. And they're big babies, honestly, because Matt's right. There are things about it that could be improved. And even like we talked about in previous episode, like just simply calling offsides correctly would be a start. But
Mhm.
just to ban the play, I think it was Mike Vrabel, who's now the head coach of the Patriots, said something to the effect of like, why are we going to ban a play just because it works? Like that'd be like banning Lamar Jackson from running the football or something. He said something to that effect, and it's like, yeah, that's right. Like, and
Mhm.
that makes me think the Patriots were probably one of the teams that did not vote to ban it. But um, I just agree with that concept of like, okay, someone is doing something successfully, therefore we must stop them. Uh, it's not the reason the Eagles won the Super Bowl, and it's also a play that anyone else can try to replicate if they'd like on their own offense. And I mean, yeah, there are things about it that aren't great, but don't just roll over and be like, you have to get rid of it. It's not fair. Like I don't like that. So
Yeah.
I'm glad it's not banned now. We'll see what the future holds for that type of thing. But yeah.
Yeah, I think I was thinking about it and I was like, oh, I wonder if it was like just split on NFC versus AFC because the NFC plays the Eagles, in the playoffs. But then I was like, oh, one AFC team would have had to vote to ban it because the Eagles aren't going to vote to ban it. So I was like, okay,
Yeah.
that's getting too complicated. So it probably wasn't that. All right. So the next little rule change that came across was an overtime rule change for the regular season. So now both teams will be getting an opportunity to possess the ball in the regular season overtime, which has not been the case for some time now. And it'll look more like the playoff overtime rules look now, that they themselves were also recently changed to reflect that. The only caveat for this for the regular season is that both teams get a chance to possess the ball unless a team scores on their first possession and it takes the full 10-minute overtime period. There will not be an extension of the overtime period to allow for the other team to possess the ball. And when I looked, it just said score. It didn't say touchdown. It just said score, so they could score any way, and it would count as long as the 10 minutes have now been expired. So that's the caveat there that I wanted to mention. But okay, so regular season looks a little bit more, maybe a little bit more fair.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that this is such a niche situational thing, and overtime games happen, and teams score on their opening drives of overtime. And if that's the case, I think absolutely. But more often than not, teams don't go in overtime and just score on the first drive. Like, more often than not, it does come down to, okay, a couple punts here or there, and now it's just first team to score. That's still going to be the case here. Like, this only changes very few instances. I mean, the Rams, it happened to us against the Lions this year. Um, we would have gotten a chance to come back. I don't know if this is going to have like as big of a change on the outcome of a season as people may initially believe, but I think I think it's cool. I'm all for just saying like, don't let the flip of a coin decide the game. Like, let's see who really wins it in an extra 10 minutes. I'm cool with that. So I think this is good. I'm down with it. We'll see how it kind of plays out, but I just don't see this being as like impactful as it may seem on the surface.
Yeah, I like it. I think anything to make the game seem more fair is good, and I think there's nothing worse than playing, let's say, the Chiefs, and you go to overtime and they win the coin toss, and Patrick Mahomes gets the ball in his hand, and it's just like, okay, I gotta pray they only score a field goal. Um, you know, I think you're right. It won't affect as many outcomes as it may seem, but I think as long as it affects a few, yeah, I'm cool with it. I think both quarterbacks, both offenses should get a chance, and this ensures that. And the argument against it in the past was like, well, if you don't like it, stop them from scoring. Well, if you don't like this, stop the other team from scoring. So it evens
Yeah.
out. Um, and yeah, I think there's nothing worse than being on the losing end of a one possession overtime. So this takes away that, and we'll always have that Tim Tebow, Demarius Thomas play, but yeah, we've been not having that in the playoffs, and so
Yeah.
Yeah.
why not? The regular season, the games matter a lot. I mean, when you win a division by calculating how many points you scored against certain opponents or whatever, then yeah, like these games matter. So I think it's a good rule.
Yeah, right on. All right, so the next one, another small one, but one that expands on a big one from last year. First thing I guess I should mention is the dynamic kickoff, which is the new kickoff that was introduced last year. I guess that was a sort of a pilot thing that wasn't permanent, but this meetings they voted to make that permanent. So the dynamic kickoff is here to stay. I believe I saw the numbers were favorable for keeping it, meaning that I think it was like I saw something like a 58% increase in kicks returned overall, year over year. So that was clearly gonna be enough to help it stay. But another change, they changed that rule further now to bring the ball out to the 35-yard line after a touchback. Last year it came to the 30. And so, 5 more yards. I don't know how much of a difference that makes, but it's a new rule. So what do you guys think?
I mean, the tush push is still available, so 5 yards means everything else.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
What I will say is I'm a little bit confused by the motivation for this change because the idea was they wanted to change the kickoff rules to incentivize two things: safety and more kick returns, because it was like touchbacks 98% of the time.
Mhm.
So you change the rule, like you say, you get the desired effect. There are less injuries and there are more returns. And the following season, you then say, well, you know what? Well, let's incentivize teams to just get a touchback more. I don't get that. To me, I don't get that. Like, why are we
Well,
incentivizing?
doesn't it incentivize the kicking team from kicking it into the end zone? So it would be more returns.
I guess you can argue that, but I feel like, I don't know.
I feel like that was the inspiration behind it. It was,
Was to stop the teams from just
let's
kicking it.
discourage kicking it into the end zone, and because kicking it out of bounds is the 40-yard line, right? So
Yeah, but because that's a penalty. But I mean, I'd have to look at the actual numbers, I guess, and you could totally be right on that, and that was the motivation. But just like the gut reaction to it for me was there were a lot of returns, but it's not like we saw teams really pushing it past the 30 anyways. Like the kick return, like the official starting spot for teams didn't feel dramatically changed. It was just that teams were returning kicks. So, I mean, if that's the motivation for it, then I guess cool. I want to make sure we see kick returns. Like and if this is the way it works, then great, I guess.
yeah, I will say I'm like net indifferent about this
Yeah.
rule. When I was a kid, it was like nothing more exciting than seeing a long kickoff return. It kind of like, yeah, we get more returns, but it kind of doesn't feel like a classic kick return anymore, with the guys lined up down the field and stuff. Um, so in my head, it's like, okay, if we're just like, it's all about player safety um, and all that. Um, why do we even need kickoffs anymore? Like, just put it at the 25. And then if for like an onside kick situation, let's come up with some other kind of rule where you'd be able to get the ball back. I'd like to see what kind of creative ideas come out of that. It's never going to happen. But I mean, I like the idea of having more kickoff returns, but they just don't hit the same to me. That's just a personal take. So it is what it is. I'm usually just like, all right, here we go. We get to see the kick, and then it's another commercial break. That's
Yeah.
how I watch football. So I really don't
Okay.
care.
I'm looking on CBS right now. There's a report. Apparently, it did have a decent impact on starting field position. Before the change in kickoffs happened, the average field position, like starting field position, was 25.6 yard line. It moved up last year to the 29.7. So I mean, you're talking about a whole 5 yard difference. Like that's better than I thought it would be. So maybe this is going the right direction then.
Yeah, I think, right direction, wrong direction is up to your opinion on, what you think about what's happening. But I think with we consider what their goals were, I think it's working, for sure. So they further expanded that, which was their choice to do. Okay, next rule here, eliminate something that has been a part of football for all of our lives, which is, rest in peace to the chain gang. The lovely folks who run out onto the field with the big orange things to measure first downs with the chains on them. They will not be the first determiners anymore of if a ball reached the first down marker. They will now use some pretty high tech cameras that they're going to put in on field this year to measure that first, and then if they need to, they'll bring out the chains. So yeah, let's just memorialize the chain gang here, and then talk about this rule change.
Yeah, I mean, we're still gonna have chain gangs at, many levels of football. Dads everywhere can take a deep breath. Um, it's just nice that it's not going to be at the NFL level. I would say this is very similar to the MLB slowly approaching bringing in at least being able to challenge the strike zone. We have the technology to know if something happened within a distance, right? Like we know when a ball is a strike or a ball. We see it live on the screen, and yet we still let umpires say strike or ball. Which is, I watched the guy from the Cardinals Angels game. He had like 26 missed calls, and like 20 of them were against the Angel. Like, just like
Yeah.
we have ways to resolve this. This is the NFL's version of that. There were plays last year, there were plays in the playoffs where clearly the result of what actually happened was different than what was called on the field. And yet, because of different rules or various things, coaches and teams weren't able to challenge said rulings, and that led to massive overhauls of the results of these games. I think this is awesome. I think this has been a long time coming. Um, I love seeing the chain gang. I think they're hilarious, but at the end of the day, it is a dated and archaic way of measuring first downs because you're just asking two random dudes to essentially eyeball it. Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy because I mean, yeah, it's crazy. I'm glad it's happening.
I agree. It's archaic. That was the word I was going to use. Like a long time coming. We've had crazy technology. Like we can the camera angles we can get in football these days, in any sports really, but um, it's just so crazy. Like um, so advanced. The fact that we are still using this is weird anyway, so I'm glad it's going away. However, I don't think that's the real problem. I don't think the real problem is the chain gang. I think the real problem is that the placement of the football is based on where one ref thinks. Like,
Right,
I think
right.
that's where the ball went. And I know that's challengeable in, if needed, but uh, yeah, I think the next step is getting some kind of chip or something in the ball, which I thought there was like already something like that. I don't know. Um,
Certainly,
where we
there's
can,
something like it. It's just
where
they
we
might not
can,
use it.
right, where we can get like we have like the pylon cams now and everything. We need to get something in the football where we can know with technology exactly how far the ball advanced on forward progress because yeah, watching the guy run in there from 30 yards away and place the football and it's just like you know I know there are some people who just they love the human element of refereeing and umpiring. I kind of get that, but
I think
In
the
the end,
like
I just want the most accurate.
yeah, everyone who I've ever had that argument with, it's like you like the idea of umpiring and refereeing, but when your team loses purely off the back of a bad call, I
Yeah.
guarantee you will be first in line to remove that ref. Like you would be first in line for the rule change. It's refereeing in sports as a whole has just reached such a bottom out level in recent years. We need more of
And these are
this.
still the best, like they're the best at their
Mhm.
job. Like
They're
I
the best
couldn't
of
do
what they
better.
do right now.
But yeah, it's just yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you look, I'm in on this too, as long as we can still see on the broadcast how close it was. I like seeing that, like, just the nose of the football got past the chain. I like seeing how close it was. I also am in on this if I can still have time to yell terrible spot and blame the spot. So I'm actually on the human element still because I like crossing my arms and saying terrible spot. I could do it better. I'm in on this though, overall. In the spirit of getting calls right, they also expanded a new rule here. They expanded replay assist to include some more penalties. So penalties now for tripping, roughing the kicker, face mask, horse collar tackles, and hits to defensive players are all now reversible if they are reviewed. They are not, you can't call a penalty on a review, but you can reverse one that was called. Just wanted to make that clear. But yeah, so expanded use of replay assist. What they've done with it, they seem to like. It doesn't add too much time to the game, so they're expanding it for more penalties and some good ones here, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this list, I like them all. There was definitely some missed calls last year that once again result in the referee having power over the result of the game in a way they shouldn't. And I know, they tried it out with pass interference a few years ago, and that really didn't work well. I would be open to seeing that in the future as well, but these ones seem pretty obvious. Like there's some pretty clear-cut rules when it comes to like tripping or roughing the kicker, things where it's like the difference between a 5 yard and a 15 automatic first down. Just there's different like facets of that I would love to see. I think face mask is going to be a huge one. Um, so many players get away with face masks, and I think that will be the one that we see the biggest impact from for sure. Uh, but I think it's good. I mean, at the end of the day, I think any true sports fan, whatever sport you are into, at the end of the day, you want to see good sport being played. Like, you don't want to see a game get so out of hand because of poor refereeing. Like, even if it goes against your team some of the time, you'd rather see a balanced league than an unbalanced league. So, yeah.
So I have a question about this. Does this mean once the penalty is called, it can be reviewed, or is it like, hey, you didn't see a face mask, I'm going to challenge, and then we can retroactively add a face mask?
I think based on what I read, penalties can still not be called on review. So this is, if a face mask gets called, they'll
Okay.
take a look at it automatically and then tell the refs that it's not one. But they can't
Okay.
tell someone that something that they didn't call is one, and
Okay.
then they call it.
So I'm assuming the reason they don't want to add that is like all the slow down of the pace of play and all that.
Yeah.
To me, this is good. I like it. It's a step in the right direction. Why stop here? Is kind of my mindset on it. I know I recognize these are like the easier ones to be able to tell quickly if it was or wasn't. But we have roughing the kicker. Why not roughing the passer? You know, because it's kind of subjective, I guess. Like, aren't they all? I don't know. Not, I mean, face mask isn't, horse collar isn't, but um, yeah, I don't really know what happened with because I remember pass interference being added to replay review, thanks in large part to that Rams Saints playoff game. Uh, and to me, it's like, well, what didn't work about it? Like, I mean, that pass interference seems like an easier one to call. So I don't know, like, yeah, I guess it would slow the game down, but I think this is a step in the right direction, and I could see the floodgates slowly opening and potentially, 5, 10 years in the future, much more is under replay review. And I'd love it if they could do what I was questioning, like, hey, my guy just got face masked on a third down we didn't convert. I'm
Mhm.
gonna throw the challenge flag and keep this drive going. Um, so yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, and I'll just kind of comment on that last thing, but the reason that the pass interference thing didn't really work is because I don't know if it was just refs are too scared to make the call. They just weren't overturning the calls. So it only resulted in slowing down the like game time.
Mm,
And I think the official number was somewhere around like 12% were actually changed like calls,
mm,
which is something, but when you're talking about, essentially 9 out of 10 were just an extended timeout,
yeah.
it's hard on the ones that aren't so black and white in the rules, which is why I think like stuff like face masks, I would love to see, like you're saying, you be able to call it when it didn't get called because it's obvious in review. He
Mm.
grabbed the face mask. Some of them, I think it'll be a little bit tougher, but at the end of the
Or
day,
holding at the line of scrimmage, you know.
Mm.
holding is such a tough one because that be happening on every play. I don't even know
Right.
if football would happen. Like
Yeah.
that truly might
It's
bring the
like
league
it's
down.
like it's like that first game last year, the Packers Eagles game, or maybe it wasn't that game, where everyone was getting called for illegal formation or something, was it?
Yeah, yeah.
Because
There
there was
was
a new
like,
rule about how you can't line up in a certain way, and everyone forgot or just
yep.
didn't practice it well, and so that game took forever because they were calling it every play. It was crazy.
It's so yeah, yeah. All that to say, I think you're right. Like this is a step in the right direction. I think that there's things to expand upon even further. I'll be curious to see kind of what this looks like as it plays out, though.
I think in the future it's going to be, refs on the field just to keep things safe. But like, I could see all penalties coming from a booth somewhere. Like, everyone has a different
Mm.
camera angle, and it's like, hey, there was a holding on that play. You got to call it real quick. And like, you
It's
know,
it's just gonna be like the Nickelodeon broadcast, and we're just gonna see cartoons out there like pretending to ref.
Yeah, why not? They're all in like they did the Simpsons broadcast, and they put like Mina Kimes on the field as her Simpson character. That'd be good. Okay, so before we leave the owners' meetings and the NFL segment to end the show here, I wanted to ask. This isn't on the sheet, but anything fun from coaches that you liked this week? Just anything jump out to you? They almost all of them talked, so just anything funny or interesting.
Only one that I even wanted to look at was Sean McVay,
Yeah,
and he actually did chime in on the tush push. He
he
has the
did.
exact same viewpoint that I took, which is banning the play is not the move, but enforcing the rules and regulations surrounding it is kind of the better perspective to take. So good on the Rams. I don't know where that means they fell in informal voting, but I like the idea that that's the conversation that might be that might be had now. Secondary one, Kyle Shanahan looks like he's aged 50
Oh,
years.
oh man,
I I saw
these
some pictures
photos.
of
Oh.
him and Sean McVay when they both got hired versus where they are now. Kyle Shanahan he's been through it, man. He has been through it. Sean McVay looks exactly the same. So
It's funny. The Niners losing an NFC Championship game or a Super Bowl has the reverse effect on me. It makes me younger. It makes me feel more alive.
your
So,
wrinkles start
you
to
know,
recede.
exactly. Now I know where they're all going.
All Kyle.
All the years that I've been losing, I've been going over to poor Kyle. Yeah, yeah. So good point there. Yeah. I have one. I just saw it today. One of my favorite reporters, and certainly my favorite Seahawks beat reporter, Michael Shandugar, he asked Mike McDonald, the Seahawks head coach, if he feels that at least pre-draft, if he feels that the Seahawks offense has improved upon last year, or is improved, and his answer was, "It's different." So that's cool
So the
that he
same.
thinks that. He
You
could
gotta
have just
lie,
said
man.
yes. That I would have loved to hear that.
Yeah,
If
you have to say yes. That's your
he could have
job.
he could have just said yes, but he didn't, and that's okay. If he doesn't think fully yes yet, then that's okay. I mean, his reasons made sense, but that doesn't make for good, opinion
Well,
having if I go into his actual reasons.
it's
I just know that he said
different.
it's different.
It's different is a fact.
That's
Like
true. Yeah,
they have a different
it's true.
quarterback. They have a different
It's
wide receiver room. Um, yeah,
yeah, it's
that's
not too much of a hot take.
fine.
yeah. Yeah, that's sort of the it's only been 1 year, but I watch press conferences. It's kind of my thing, and that I like to do. I watch them all throughout the year and in the off season, and that's one thing that the young head coach Mike McDonald is not very good at yet is the coach speak. And coming from Pete Carroll, it's been quite a shock because there's nothing that Pete Carroll is better at than
Yeah.
optimistic coach speak. So whoa. You guys see that? Okay. All right. So let's end with,
You can't speak poorly on Carol, bro.
dude, he tried to
He's
kidnap
haunting
me.
you.
Dude, he
He's
tried to
trying to get
kidnap me
you.
just now. Dude, it was crazy. He came in here and he smacked me in the head. Okay. So, we'll end as we always do with dingers and stingers. Let's start with our dingers. So let's start with Drew. What's your dinger this week?
Yeah, my dinger this week, and I alluded to kind of both of my dinger and stinger earlier in the show, but I'll expand on it here. My dinger is the extension craze going around Major League Baseball. So just in this past week, our favorite teams made some moves. You talked about Jackson Merrill got a big extension. Good for him. Good for the Padres. I think that's like the perfect candidate
Hmm.
for an extension like that. Um, Similarly, the Red Sox did it with Garrett Crochet, their 25-year-old starting pitcher. When they traded for him, they only had 2 years of control left. A big caveat for the fan base buying into that trade was that, oh, we'll definitely extend him, right? And then he set opening day as the deadline, and there wasn't one, and it was kind of like, okay, what's happening? But in the end, they were close enough on opening day to keep the talks going, got it over the finish line, and in fact, better for the team than I expected. It takes him through his age 31 season, so that's when he'll hit free agency. And then he went out and shoved the next game, 8 innings, shutout, shutout ball, 8 strikeouts. It was great. And they also extended Christian Campbell, our number two prospect, but in a lot of systems he'd be the number one prospect, and has come off to a hot start here in 2025. Very team friendly. It's like 8 years, 60 million, and then there's two club options on top of that, so he could be here for 10 years when it's all said and done. Love that. And then also the Diamondbacks, I believe it was the third contract extension for Ketel Marte. I
Yeah.
don't even think he was necessarily close to finishing the one he's currently on. I don't remember exactly, but um, I like him on that team, and
Hmm.
they are a good group. They already extended Corbin Carroll before he even debuted, so they've got their two, marquee players on the offensive side locked up. Um, and it's just good vibes for these teams when that happens. And we're seeing it more and more. That's why like Vlad Guerrero not getting done is a big deal because we just don't get those top end free agents anymore because so many get extended and then their prime years are spoken for. But I love it, and these are three teams that I root for to varying degrees. So that is my dinger for the week.
Yeah, my dinger, kind of riding off the Merrill extension, is just the fact that this is the best start in Padres history. Glad to be a part of it. Wasn't here for the last one, so yeah, it's just been all good, man. This has been a great week. It's not news per se, but it's just every win from here on out is news, you know?
Yeah, it's a new record every win.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So let's move to stingers. I actually have one, so I can maybe go in the middle. But Drew, let's hear a stinger from you.
Yeah, again, I talked about this a little bit before, but Jurickson Profar tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs, suspended
Nope.
80 games, and
Never
it's
good.
just a
Couldn't do it.
huge bummer. It's a bummer whenever this happens, but I think it's kind of a special bummer for him because he had this long journey in the major leagues of being kind of like, an average player. He was a top prospect that never really saw his full potential, and then last year just had an amazing year. And then this year, signed a contract with the Braves. There was a lot of excitement around that. And then, boom, not even a week into the season, and they haven't won a game. And he's suspended, ineligible for playoffs should they make it that far. And it's a mark on his character, which, like, I don't want to make a sweeping judgment on him as a person because you never know the circumstances and whether he fully knew what he was doing or didn't. I don't want to speak on that, but at the end of the day, it's something that's always going to be associated with him. And we talk about the steroid era and Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens and Sammy Sosa and all those guys, with a little more forgiveness because it was the Wild West and there was not strict testing and there was not rules about this kind of thing like there is now. I just have very little grace these days because they know it, they're taught it all levels of the minor leagues, and so you just got to be smarter, um, and either be more careful about what you're taking or make better decisions. Um, and yeah, that's my stinger.
Okay, let's go with my stinger. I didn't have one until earlier today, or maybe, or it was earlier today, but, maybe later today in the day. But it's just a little follow up on yeah, the trades of Geno Smith and DK Metcalf. Because another thing that came out of the owners' meetings this week, reported by ESPN, but I trust it, is that ESPN sources say that this offseason wasn't the first time DK has requested a trade out. It hadn't been publicized yet before this season, but it sounds like DK has actually requested a trade maybe multiple seasons in a row now. And then, so finding out sort of today or yesterday, I guess I found that out, that, DK maybe hasn't wanted to be a Seahawk for a long time. That's kind of a bummer. And then, I didn't think much about it though. It was kind of a one thing, but then I saw the Geno Smith contract extension today with the Raiders. And the terms of that extension, essentially mean here, I'm not going to get into the specific numbers, but what happened was he essentially signed a deal that pays him about $3.5 million more per year than the Seahawks paid Sam Darnold, and about $10 million more guaranteed over the course of the contract than the Seahawks paid Sam Darnold. So that also kind of signals to me that Geno also just didn't want to be a Seahawk and kind of wasn't wanting to extend with Seattle past this year, because if they offered that to Sam Darnold, I assume they also might have offered it to Geno, and so it kind of signals to me that those two guys who I really enjoyed watching, just sort of maybe didn't want to be Seahawks anymore, which it comes with a change of head coach. And sort of a change in personnel as a whole. I think DK being multiple years in a row, obviously that goes back to the last couple of years of Pete, but players had left, Russ had left, who DK came into the league with, and he was his quarterback. And so I think, finding out that the Seahawks weren't necessarily a place that either of those two guys wanted to actually be, perhaps, was kind of a bummer for me. But as always, best of luck. And remember what happens to people who wrong me, like Russell Wilson. It does not work out for them. So just be careful, you too. Okay, we'll end with Matt Stinger. Let's hear it.
Similarly, riding the football line here, my stinger was about a bit of news that came out from an interview with a player, and it was that Puka has announced his intentions on following the Aaron Donald method of, I don't care, I'm retiring when I turn 30.
Hmm.
It makes me sad because Puka was not necessarily a young prospect coming in either. He was a bit of an older rookie. He is already 24, will turn 25 this season. So we're going to have one contract of Puka, after this rookie deal, and that's it. Like, that will probably be it for Puka. And I love Puka. He may be my favorite player that the Rams have drafted in my lifetime. He is genuinely, and I'm not saying the best player, I'm saying my favorite player. I think he is just a happy, funny, goofy dude who just happens to be so good at football. And I don't think he cares that much about football, which makes it funnier. Um, but it makes me sad, man. I want to see him play with the Rams until he's 50 if I could, but I don't know. It feels like the time is already the end of the tunnel's too soon. It's too close.
I understand where you're coming from, but I gotta say, if you play NFL football, take care of yourself. And I appreciate someone being that young and having that kind of foresight um, to
No.
protect himself.
He
I
just
mean,
watched
he
Aaron
could get
Donald do it and he was like, wow.
he can get very hurt before 30. Definitely, we've seen with guys, but
Not sweet, sweet Boogie.
Remains to be seen. Yeah, so, hey, bit of good news for me on that one. That's my dinger for this week, actually, is that I only have to deal with that for 5 years. Okay. So,
5 years.
yeah.
Football
I'm like,
time,
oh,
that's
man.
forever. That's forever.
An
Football time.
eternity. An eternity. Okay, so that's our show for this week. We had some laughs. We had some fun. We bought and sold on some teams. If you're watching or listening, thanks so much for watching and listening. Share us around as always. We'd love to share it. We'd love to spread the love. If you guys have, your opinions on who we should buy stock in, sell stock in based on what we said, comment it down below. Let's see. Let's hear it. If you guys differ from us, we'd love to engage with you guys on that. But for now, until next week, take care of yourselves, have some fun, watch some baseball, and we'll see you for next week's episode.
Yes, sir.
Bye.